Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, season's greetings, and all the possible greetings that we have in India. I think we're just around Makar Sankranti, so happy Pongal, happy Sankrant in advance also.
Cheers.
That's an interesting celebration in India. It's celebrated in so many states. We're having it in a few days in India. I think we
What's
should
the name of it?
It's called
And-
Makar Sankrant, also Pongal. I think in every state it has a different name.
Uh-huh. And what are you celebrating?
I think the harvest. We celebrate the harvest.
Uh-huh. So that's the season. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For us here, the winter is coming. It's beginning with a little bit of snow and at the moment a lot of rain.
Oh,
And we've just been celebrating the New Year. So happy New Year to everybody as well.
thank you so much. So hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Joining Hands and welcome to another lovely workshop, another lovely talk. We have Claes-Berend van der Kolk in house. Did I get that right this time?
You got it really right. And
Okay,
I don't
fantastic.
really care how exactly you pronounce it, because then it would be tiring.
Thank you. What's interesting is Claes has a background in fashion, and you can make out with the long hair and the stylish looks that Claes has. He has a background in fashion, and after fashion, he was selling fashion rather. He transitioned into consulting, and then of course he worked with constellations, family constellations with Bert Hellinger, who was also instrumental in translating all of Bert's books into Dutch so that he could teach in Netherlands and also do his work over there. And then he learned from Gunther and Klaus and others who were the pioneers of what is called organizational constellations. Claes also has founded the Center of Organization Constellations, where he teaches constellations and he does a lot of work with corporate. And he's been practicing it for over 2 decades right now. And we're hoping we can bring him to India this year sometime soon to also teach further our learning on organization constellations in India. Claes is based in Netherlands in Amersfoort, and today we're just having a general chat on what organization constellations are, how they function, how they are different from family constellations, and how they are similar from family constellations. Am I right on that, Claes?
Yeah, yes. For the most part, you're absolutely right. And there's another goal for me, and that's getting to know you and getting to know what your interest is about. So this is a first talk, and I would like to learn and listen to where your interests are concerning the field of constellations with focus on organizational constellations.
I think as a group and as a country, I think I wouldn't say we're new to family constellations. I remember being invited for one maybe over a decade and a half back. So almost 15 years back, somebody had invited me for a constellation in Mumbai. There are 2 pioneers, Yuval Mogan, who work as a group. And then there was Annie Karyappa, who started teaching constellations in India. And they were the ones who really brought constellations into India many, many years back. But if you ask me, I think COVID has been a booster. The pandemic has been a booster for the entire alternative healing space in India. Traditionally, we never did any work online. So people were normally limited to their geography or their own micro circles. But with COVID coming in, we all learned to work online. I know a lot of therapists now actually do family constellations online, and they're doing a fantastic job at it. That's not the way we were traditionally learned, but I think Mother Nature can be a great teacher, and necessity is the second. I think all innovation is born out of necessity. And that's really what's happened with constellation. So constellation work in India is really gaining popularity. There is some bit of organization constellation that people know of or speak about, but predominantly, I would say 99% of the work currently is family constellations.
Oh. And,
Also, you need to understand that as a country, we're just 75 years old. So we were under the British rule. There was a lot of partition. And this is predominantly when I talk to many therapists, many constellators, as you corrected me last time. When I talk to many constellators, they talk about the partition, how India and Pakistan, and how many people were left homeless. And if you go further down into history, how a lot of people who actually reside in South India, the southern part of the country, were actually in the northern part of the country and were pushed down with the various attacks on the country. So a lot of people yet are working with families. We're yet very traditional. We're yet very communal. We're yet dealing with things like black sheep. We don't incorporate, we don't acknowledge them. I think till as much as my generation, we really don't learn to acknowledge people and the work that they do, how they contribute in the families.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because what I have been learning in being in the field of organizational constellations is that it's not only about commercial businesses, but it's about all systems beyond family, and also including family. But it's also to learn to look with a systemic vision to how society works, to how groups of people have to change or flee, and mutual societal dynamics are also the underlying dynamics and the consequences of disaster and flee, and that kind of things can really be researched in a nice way, with a sense of your heart, using the method of organizational constellations. So it's just further building to researching other systems than only families, what I have learned and experienced with the last 22 years.
Wow. I know there was talk that a lot of constellators would tell me that they've done constellations for COVID. They've done constellations for the countries.
Yep.
And of course, if you've done a constellation for the country, for COVID, for different systems, and at the end of the day, an organization is also a system.
Yeah. So everything is a system. Even the constellations in astrology, the stars and the moon is a constellation, of course. But your inner being as an individual, your soul and your mind and your heart and your muscles and your mind is you are a constellation, and you're a nested constellation being part of a bigger constellation. And of course, the most influential system that you're part of is where you're born in, the family, with your mother on the first place, and the connection between your parents. But from that on, and you cannot overestimate the influence of the system you're born in, but from that on, you're going to explore other systems like kindergarten, like school, and like the religious system that your parents have been part of, and you might be part of in the first years, and then your sport club, and then your own work or institution that you organize yourself or become part of. All that organizations, all that systems influence the way you feel, and the thoughts, the things you're thinking about, and your concerns. And when your thoughts about one of the systems is blocking, then a constellation is a good way to get clarity.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you said you've been doing this for almost 22 years,
Yes.
Yeah. So could you tell us and everyone here, what really where did this really come from? Because I'm sure 22 years back, when Bert Hellinger was at the cusp of creating constellations, I'm really sure he was intrigued, and I'm sure you were intrigued. So do you know how this whole idea to use this work for organizations was born?
Yes. I can tell you I will tell you some names. But first, Bert Hellinger he started Family Constellations after being part of a group of people with some interest in psychotherapy and some interest in religion. And he had some clients that were families. And Bert Hellinger took everything he knew from alternative, energetic, and more regular approaches, and his own experience in the church to start Family Constellations. And then at a certain moment, one of his clients was Gunther Weber. And Gunther Weber had a therapeutic, an organization that had two parts. One, a group of therapists in Germany, and the other part was organizational consultancy. But he asked Bert Hellinger, that was in 1993 or 94, I guess. He asked, can I do a family constellation about my therapeutic institute also? And then Bert Hellinger said, well, of course, then we do something that's like family constellation, but instead of the father, we use you as the one who started the community or the corporation, and we ask some representative for well, let the people, the therapists, be the children, and let the clients be the grandchildren or something like that, and we can do the same. So in that perspective, Bert Hellinger himself is the founder of Organizational Constellations, but Gunther Weber was the man who said, oh, wow, if this works on my business with therapists, then I also have a business in consulting for organizations, then I can use this work for all the work that we have.
Wow.
And Gunther Weber has founded Organizational Constellations, but here we maybe can you see that? Maybe a thumbs up if you can
Yeah,
see it
I think I can see.
somehow.
Any other
Yes,
see? Yeah, yeah.
that's a lot of thumbs up, so that's great.
Just gonna do.
And at the same time that that Gunther Weber was doing that organizational constellations and got it from Bert Hellinger, there was a guy who was doing neuro-linguistic programming, Claes-Berend, his name you see
Yes.
here, if I
Yes.
do that right. And I was in a conference where they were all three, and Gunther Weber was telling this story that I just told you about, how he started with organizational constellations. And then 3 hours later, we got a workshop by Klaus Krogowiak, and he said, we have been doing organizational constellations since 1989, because of course we found out that you can do it on all the on all kind of systems, and we combined it with neuro-linguistic programming. And Klaus Krogowiak has been very influential on organizational constellations, because he was also using aspects of structural constellations, and he was the first who taught us also about putting abstract elements and not only people but also departments of the organization, also the purpose of the organization, etc. in constellations. You can do constellations on any system. That's what Klaus Krogowiak was really good at. And for the abstract elements, Matthias Varga from Kibet brought that with his wife, Insa Sparrer. They brought that even further and put up constellations on making decisions. And you can put up the answer yes and the answer no, and maybe both yes and both no, or in a dilemma, two kinds. And they named it structural constellations. That was the third part of constellations, but I think structural constellations and organizational constellations have become one and the same thing now. So was that an answer to your question, Hitesh, or was it something completely else?
No, I think it was very interesting. So it's very nice to know where it all started and how, since it's a 1990, so it's been almost 30 years that it's been practiced so interestingly.
Yeah, Bert Hellinger himself says that his first constellations that he did in hotels was in 86.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is
That's
there
a
a
long time
difference,
ago.
for a lot of us over here, again, I have no idea of organizational constellations. I'm looking forward to learning more. Hans is coming down in a couple of
I
months.
know Hans very well,
Of
and
course, we both studied under
I
Hans.
recommend his workshop to everybody here because it's a very nice introduction to the work of also core issue constellations, which is partly family and with a focus on organizational issues as well.
Right. So, a lot of us yet, I think, haven't understood the crux of what an organization constellation is because, and these are questions that have come to me. If I am an independent practice, let's say I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
If I have an issue, do I consider myself as an organization constellation, or do I use the learning? I mean, eventually the process, I'm sure I'm not a constellator myself, but how is it really different if if I'm framing the question right, Claes? How would a constellation, an organization constellation be different from a family constellation or any other systemic? I mean, what is the approach to something like that?
Yeah, it's probably, if you ask it the way you do now, then we would do an organizational constellation. But the difference is your focus and depends on the question that you have. Because an organization, if your question is about the success of your organization or leadership challenges or challenges that you have with customers or in a supervision constellation about a certain customer, then we would definitely do an organizational constellation. Because then we can put up your client or a group of clients, of all your clients, the purpose or the goal that you had with your one-man organization or two-person organization and the cooperational partners that you work with. And then we put you up with the focus of your question and your role in the company that you have, even if the role is that you're the entrepreneur itself and it's only a one-person's company. And it's also a matter of agreement in the group that you do organizational constellations with, how far together you can go and look into the family system. Very many people who started with organizational constellations, including Gunther Weber, turned too fast into the realm of family constellations. But if you are in a company and you're working as a leader, then you're not going to do a family constellation with your parents who had a big conflict and did or did not want you, and that's not a leadership issue. That's something you take for granted if you are in a family constellation, that everybody has his own luggage of his personal issues, and then you can say, maybe here we need to do a family constellation as well, but we will do that in another time, in another room. And now we just focus on you, the client, your co-workers, the source of where money comes from, or the source of your conflict. That's the crux. You just focus on the system that where the problem is coming from, or the challenge, and not of the system where you're born in. Is that clear?
Yeah, that is, and we will. I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience also have questions, and we'll come to that. But right now, I'm focusing on the questions I have, and I want to get them answered for everybody. Could you also share, Claes, maybe one or two interesting examples of sessions that you have done, so people in the audience can know what kind of problem was resolved with the constellation?
Yeah, there are too many to just pick one or two.
I'm sure. Which one is your favorite?
I don't have a favorite because I'm just interested in the intervention and not so um, in the content of what it's about. I'm knowledgeable in and the area of my work is the intervention, the method, and it's not the problem itself that belongs to the one asking for a constellation. But yesterday or the day before, I had a guy that was an individual constellation who is part of a larger who is part of a larger company, and that company was a family company, a family-run organization, and he was asking about his place in the family business, because he was not a son, he was an outsider. He had been, and he was 35, and the children of the one who started it are the same age as he has, and but he was the person of everybody was trusting him more than the children of the owner.
Mm.
So in my mind, I thought, well, you should be in service of the others because it's a family-run organization. But we put it up, and he at the same time had all kind of thoughts of that he just wanted to be a consultant or an advisor on the sideline and the CFO, and have the director being the son of the founder. That's a long introduction for a short constellation, but we did a constellation about it, and the only one that was trusted at the moment by everybody was my client. And so the solution was more like, you can lead in a serving way, and you can lead as a dominator. And if you are leading, being in service, then you are at some perspective the first and the last in line at the same time in the hierarchy. You can be the leader and don't have to be the dominant one and the first one in line. That is more a solution in the style of leadership than it is in the function that you need to go. And we found out that it is a lot stronger to restrict his offer for 5 years and use that 5 years to cooperate with the children of the founder and make them ready to go into the new area, the new era of the organization. And that fell totally together with after the founder, who is a man that looks like me, a pioneer that's not so conformistic, and now the whole company needs 5 years, at least a few years of consolidation and working on the internal structure, and then the next generation can blow things up again and make it 10 times bigger again. He only wants to double the amount, the turnover, and his son wants to make it 10 times bigger. So they will go from turnover from 40 million to 150 million in the next 5 years, and the son wants to go to a turnover from towards $1 billion. Right. That's very interesting. And other constellation that came in mind was with a restaurant owner who had who was himself was founder of the restaurant and the cafe and some others around, but his children were very young, and he had a big conflict with his sister. And at the beginning of the constellation, I asked, what is the goal of this constellation? Why did you invite us with all the representatives to be here? And he came with my role in the management team, as a leader, as an innovator, the relationship. Do I prepare the organization for my children or for selling externally? The conflict I do have with my sister, who doesn't do anything and just is there. And he had 12 other goals that I thought, and we have only one afternoon. How can we do this? Um, and make it clear for you also. And then you can do a long talk on getting clear what's the real problem. But I just started, and we solved in 3 hours all the issues, because the problem behind the problem, of course, was that he does a lot and has a lot of great intentions and actions, but not clarity about the whole construct of the organization. And if you have clarity as a leader, then all your problems can be solved in just one constellation. However, it took 2 hours for that one.
Wow.
So that's really interesting, that that the goal is just to heal the clarity about the organization. And sometimes it's just to heal the system, the symptom, and to solve just one symptom. And very often there are so many hearts opening at the same time, and so many minds clearing up from one constellation, that you can solve a lot of problems just by doing one constellation and do it thoroughly.
Fantastic. So that leads me to my next question, Claes, and this is something which I'm pretty sure everyone would like to know.
Great.
Should only an entrepreneur or a CEO come for an organization constellation, or can anyone within the organization come?
You ask for a constellation about a subject that you have responsibility for and some freedom to intervene. As a kid, as a child, you cannot solve the relations conflict of your parents.
Right.
You have to stay out of that. And as an employee, you cannot solve the issues of the director. But that said, everybody can ask a constellation about his work. But for an employee, it's more about, how can I be of more service, or should I stay or should I go, or my direct colleagues, I cannot deal with them. What's the problem?
Right.
And for the entrepreneur or somebody higher in the organization, a leader, it's about leadership and organizational and entrepreneurial issues. Interesting. Also, where does the money come? How do I grow the turnover? And why do people take the money or get ill in my organization, get a headache? All that kind of issues are more for leaders and entrepreneurs. But everybody in an organization, even if you're just one footballer in a football club or in a team, you can do a constellation about your own work issue or challenge.
Wow. So I can. So I just don't, if I'm a manager in an organization and I see that my department or my team is not doing very well, I can actually do a constellation on that also.
You can do a constellation on that. Also, I recommend that you ask a consent by your direct boss to do that, because that makes it a little bit bigger to see the issues that are one level up, giving you the problems. And it would be nice if he or she will join, but you can do a constellation for your cooperation and for your department or your own team, people who work with you.
Fantastic. And so I know that we're hoping to see you in India real soon next year. And I'm sure you're going to put together a workshop and tell all of us about how beautiful the work is and how deep the work is.
Yeah, that's for me, the restriction with this work is I love to do constellations together with people and do multi-level learning or multi-level teaching and teaching people everything I know about constellations and everything I have experienced, all my insights, but I can do 10 times more by showing and making feeling the constellation than just by talking about constellations. How insightful this is. It could be tenfold more insights, giving more insights, especially when it is about your own issues with organizations. And that will be the learning example, like it was with Gunther Weber, for that you had the insight and had the feeling how it has been resolved, and then you can help other organizations and customers, etc. So that would be, it would be really great to see you in person in India someday next year.
I'm sure this year, hopefully this year, we're in 2023.
Hopefully this year. Okay.
Yes. Are there any questions? You said, you started by saying you'd like to know more about India and more about our, how our complications are different from the Dutch complications. Other questions you would have for us?
Yeah. So I'm interested in how from you all the participants who are joining, if it is clear what I'm telling, because I'm telling this with a mindset that's born and raised in Europe and not in Mumbai or India or whatever. So if it's clear and where it's not clear, and if you have some more specific interest in this field.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Everything is welcome.
So we already have a few questions on the chat.
Okay.
The first question is, as a beginner, how can I inculcate a method of constellation as a human resource professional to my client-based project?
What's the role?
As a beginner.
What's a beginner?
Well, someone who's not learned family constellations as yet.
Yeah.
As a beginner, how do I inculcate or incorporate the method of constellation work into my own organization?
Yeah.
Have I got that right, Aarti? Is that what you wanted to know? Or you can actually unmute and ask your question also yourself.
Yes, Satish. Thank you so much.
You have your video on, and if you could see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. My question was, as a newcomer on this topic, how can I introduce a constellation workshop to my leadership team? Because I train the leaders, and as an HR personnel, I would like to know where to start to introduce this subject to the leadership team, because they work with clients.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting question, Aarti, but I get that in Europe as much as I get that from you now, because you can introduce it by telling about not so much about the method, but about the field of work. Because if in Europe we introduce the method with the representatives and the kind of work like you do a family constellation, then often that is organizing your own barriers. But if you tell people in organizations about that it is a kind of work to create I'm looking for the words in English, a field of power and force. You create a field which is an analogy for the force field that your own system is, and get all the elements more clear for everybody, so everybody knows what to do. And then then most people think that the method is not so important as the research that you are going to do together. So if you focus on that, we have an organization that is a system, and that system consists of all kind of elements, people, departments, and how they are related. Where are the weaknesses? Where is the power? And we need everybody to go in one room and research that together. Probably, and if you ask people what is their question, what are their challenges, what could we research, how can we prepare such a meeting in getting clear where our bottlenecks are, then you have an introduction. I think that will make it more clear for people, or more doable for people to invest in such a workshop. Is that a good clear for you, Archie? Yeah.
Yes, it is clear. Moving on to my next question. I'm sorry, Hitesh, if I'm taking too much of time.
No, not at all. The whole program today is just to get our question and doubts answered.
Okay, so the next question is, can I get trained on this introduction to, I think it's more of a reflection or more of an awareness before we get other people trained. So can I get trained on this somewhere? Is there a platform? Would you train us? How do I go about it?
Hitesh?
So we actually have a workshop happening, Aarti, in April, where Hans is coming down, and he's doing a 3-day workshop, in-person workshop in Mumbai. And Claes is going to be coming down later during the year. Maybe I'm looking at somewhere August, September, when Claes himself will be in India to do an in-person workshop. We're trying to do away with the whole Zoom thing. Zoom is great to meet and to get introduced to the subject, but I think the power that the learning has in person. So which is why the workshop in Bombay. I'll send you the details over a WhatsApp.
All right. Sounds like a plan, Hitesh. Thank you. And thank you, Claes. I can't wait to be there in person and actually have a face value a session with you. So thank you, Hitesh, and thank you, Claes.
Thank you very much. That's very kind, Aarti. I look forward to meeting you and all the other participants.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Aarti. The next question that we already have is someone from Manju. But Manju wants to know, her husband has started a business with another partner, but they aren't getting a lot of response from clients. Is this something that you could be addressed with an organizational constellation?
Of course. Because you can put up her husband or her partner and the partner that he has to see if there is something in their working together, in their that can be changed, if they need something that they are missing. And you of course can put up the purpose and the clients to see and find out if the clients are not seeing it, or they are not interested in the offer, in the product they offer, or if they can do something about, or they have to do something about themselves, getting more confidential, more confident in, or more clear in the work they do. But you can put up, or even that in the relationship or somewhere in the outside world, there is something blocking it. So you can put up an experimental constellation for that question, which is a very good question to start a constellation.
Okay. So I hope that answers the question, Manju. And the other one is a very interesting question from Namrata. So in India, we have a private limited or an LLP or a public listed company. In India, we have a company called a Hindu undivided family. It's referred to as HUF. It typically refers to, it's like a company, but it's not exactly a company setup. What it really means is the eldest of the family runs the business, and he's the one who calls all the shots. Somewhere close to, but not very close to how the Italians run their business. So you have the eldest son or the father who runs the business, and he's
Mhm.
called the Karta. In Hindi, we call him the Karta, which literally means the guy who does.
Yeah.
And everybody else is called the Dharta, are the ones who follow.
Yeah.
So that's, how would, and it's a very interesting question. How would a family business be treated differently? Would it be, because it's so closely entwined as a family?
Yeah.
And by law, it says an HUF can have anybody who's linearly descended from a common ancestor and their wives and unmarried daughters. Married daughters are not allowed to be part of an HUF.
Yeah.
So how would this be different? Would it be a family constellation, where you follow the orders of love, or would you really look at this from an organizational constellation? Very interesting question. Thank you, Namrata.
Everything you've said and more. So it's, of course, I love to work with family businesses and family businesses that work in a structure that has been there for ages, like that. What you have just described, it's really interested to do, and from the methodical way, the idea is to start to separate both systems. So you say, okay, we have the family on one hand and we have the company on the other hand, and we all the family constellation issues, when we take that out of the business, then how does the constellation look? If we take the energy, the loyalty that's in the family, we take that out of the company, and we just look at the organization and make it clear. And then for people, that's already clear. But then we say, then this is what we need, but we cannot do it if we don't do a family constellation in the same room in another day part or another constellation first. But then the goal of the family constellation is to clear the family issues so the organization can work more directly and more clean on their functional and professional relationships. And when you just get clear where the relationships between family, non-family members, between professional hierarchy and the following order in the families, where are they in service of each other and where are these blocking each other? So, and then you just need to go into a constellation, look, listen, and sense for the best possible outcome. That's not theory, that's something you find again and again anew in every constellation that you start with.
Fantastic, fantastic. It was really nice where you said you must separate them both, because when we see the HUF in India, we just see that they're so intertwined and so connected, and it's just a mishmash where they're all
of
just
course
up. You can't really distinguish a family from the organization.
No, but these kind of things, maybe you cannot do them in real, but you can do them during a constellation. So then for a few moments, the minds and the hearts are clearer and open. And before you go back into the mishmash of family and organizational issues. But then you do it with a different knowing in your heart and in your mind.
Okay. Namrata, you have a leading question. Why don't you ask it yourself?
Yeah, so the thing is that in India, most of the middle level businesses are family-run businesses. Maybe the shops or the smaller businesses that we have, they get passed on from lineage to lineage. Now, when, like you said, that you need to separate the organization from the family when we do the constellation. But as Hitesh also mentioned that they're quite intervened, like, they're quite entangled.
Yeah.
So, what I have understood now is that when we are starting this session, the intention that we have before the session, would that set the session differently, NFC and an organizational constellation? Because I really, I think when you will actually get down to do this, will we really know that how it is actually getting separated? Because the thought is not very clear as of now.
Okay. I hope I understand your question well, but I'll answer it first, and then we'll find out if I gave an answer to your question. When you separated the family from the organization just for the sake of the constellation itself, and to get it clear in your heart and your mind how much it can be and should be separated in real life in the organization. That's a totally different matter, but you get clarity about that after you've done a constellation. So it's not that you have to separate these organizations from the families or the hierarchy or the thinking about it. You just have to separate it during the workshop. And you can even do that by putting representatives for Namrata as a daughter of the family owner, and put another representative for Namrata as the sales director of that company, and to see the difference of these two representatives. That's for you, then it's very clear where they intertwine and where they can really be separated, and where it's hard, where your entanglements lie. It's not, you cannot in every constellation and in every family-run business solve and all entanglements, but you can get clear where the entanglements lie and where they are beneficial and when they are destructive.
You answer that point on, like, actually, if I'm the client, I actually put myself as a family different, and the position that I hold in the organization as another element. Yeah, I think it works. Yes. Now I understand the difference. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
That
Namrata,
was
for your
fantastic.
question.
Thank you.
That was fantastic insights, Claes. I think that was very powerful.
But that was a good question of Namrata as well. So I'm happy. Yeah.
Thank you. We have Soumya with her next question. Soumya, would you want to?
Yes, thanks, Satish. Hi, Claes. I just wanted to clarify that from what I understand so far is that the client, who is an organization or a team or an individual, they will get an idea and a solution of some sort. If they are not able to implement it as such, the awareness that they have, then will there still be visible changes that will be seen?
Yes. Thanks for your question. Again, when I usually do a constellation in an organization, then what is changing is the image that people have within their system about their contribution to the organization. And that's the most beneficial thing that you can have in an organization. You usually don't even have to decide about changing the structure of the organization, about implementations, etc. When I started doing organizational constellations, then I said, well, after we did it, then 2 weeks later, the first 2 weeks do nothing, take no decision, let the insights grow inside of you, and 2 weeks later we come and make decisions about what we have to change based on the insights. But every time I came back 2 weeks later, we had nothing to talk about, because people repeatedly said, everything has changed already for the good. We didn't take any decisions, and we just continued, but something inside us or between us and between us and the customers so much things have changed that we don't have to take any decisions.
Okay.
That's something that in organizational constellations, actually you offer in the deed of the constellation a lot more than what you promised before.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's a clear yes for you, Soumya.
Yes. It's a shift of energy that happens basically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soumya.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question.
I hope we're not annoying you with too many questions, class. We have a lot of questions coming in. Step by step, I think as the session is opening up more and more, I have questions on WhatsApp. I just got a question on email, and I have now questions coming in all over the place.
For me, the only restriction is the time that we have together for that you have.
I promise you will be done in 10 more minutes.
That's no problem for me.
Thank you.
If we need a few more minutes, then it's also no problem.
Sure. Thank you so much. And this is, and I just love the way the questions are so different from each other, you know, and Richie has a question where he wants to know, can you do a constellation for a company you propose to take over?
Yes, yes. If your heart's on the right place, then I think it's more ethical to ask the people, the owner of the company you take over, for his consent to do it. But as you do a financial analysis before you take over the company, you can also do a systemic investigation on where are the weaknesses, where are the strengths, and I've done that several times. Usually with the consent of the selling party, but not always, because I'm corrupt as hell. What that, but then I just visualize in on my forehead a traffic light. Can I do this or can I not do this? And then I get a kind of a moral answer if it is, so if you are there with a right heart in it, or with bad and negative goals. But yeah, so that are the restrictions, but it is a very good purpose for a constellation, and it can be really beneficial to know before where the challenges are, where the weaknesses are, and where the possibilities in the organization are, the real chances.
Fantastic. I really like how every question is so different from the other class. It's such interesting insights. You know, this video is going to be so powerful. Very nice. A question that's come on chat to me is, do the department heads need to be present when doing a constellation? So we have the entrepreneur, or we have the director, and it's with a particular department. Do they need to be present?
No.
Okay.
Because you work with representatives, and if the leader of that department is there, then he can carry over what he has had on insights in his own company. And sometimes you're much more free if you're not including your employees, department leaders, etc. But they can be. That depends on what you want to investigate. I think Jaya Nair has also raised her hand.
Yes, she has.
Yeah.
Jaya, you're on mute, sweetheart.
Jaya, you don't have your mic on. Now we can hear you.
Hi, class. This is actually a follow-up question of the earlier one of taking over a company. Now, if we cannot access that company's consent, isn't it enough if we work with whether that company will be compatible to us or not?
Sometimes it can be, and sometimes it's not, but it is a constellation is more insightful if the question and the system that you work with, if you have had more contact and insights about, so the question is better. But I have been doing constellations for the police in the Netherlands, and we were looking for someone who committed a few murders and who didn't want to be found, and we did not get his consent to find him to a constellation. That is a little that was a little bit far-fetched to find the consent. But then I said, okay, who wants to be the representatives of the guy that we are looking? and we asked the representative and the people. I then asked everybody, can we all together start by bringing him love, just to open our
Yes.
heart for him?
Exactly.
And then we asked, okay, if we can give you, if we can give him and embrace him with all our hearts, is it better for him to be found, or is it better for the whole system that he is part of and entangled with, that he will not be found? And we had a kind of idea, feeling. It was not so really clear, but we really sensed that it would be a lot less stress and devastation for him if he would be caught by the police. And then we found out that we started Constellation, and we found out that he was suppressed and used by an organization of misdeed, well, a syndicate, etc., etc. And then we could do the Constellation with him also. So to go back to your question, so also without consent, we can do a lot. But the more you know,
that's what I feel. We can do vis-a-vis us. I mean, what is our energy? We are not changing somebody else's energy, but we get a perspective of whether it suits us or not.
Yeah, at least you get that.
Thank you.
And if you have a more specific question or a more specific insights, you get more specific answers.
Of course,
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you, Jaya.
Thank you.
I love that, and I hope that someday, as a country, our police force and our armies and all our people in India open up to work like this. That would be so beautiful to have.
In the Netherlands, it's not so much more open than it is in India, but there is a little group of former researchers in the police who do the out-of-the-box methods. And I was happy to be asked by that group.
Fantastic. Good. Do we have any more questions? Or I think we're almost at time.
Hitesh, I have one last question.
Sure.
Aarti. Is there an energy exchange that needs to be done for a constellation, organizational constellation workshop? Because I do understand how energy works. I'm an energy worker myself. So is there an exchange that the members need to go through or maybe give?
Yes, there are a lot of things you should do before you prepare, both for being, you can do more or less to prepare people who are stand-ins in a constellation. Now I go from that, family constellations, but and also as a preparation for bringing in a question or leading a constellation, you really have to clear your mind to investigate about what you have been thinking and what your precognitions are. And if you have identified them, to let them go, to really open up and not influence a constellation by your own thoughts and your own expectations from it. Is that an answer, Aarti? Is that what you were looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
So Claes, in India, since we consider talking about money a taboo.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists use the term energy exchange also to refer, should I charge the client or not?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, you have programs and you have workshops where you have people reaching out to you, what's the energy exchange? But what they're really asking you is, what's the fees for the workshop?
Yeah.
But it's very different because, and like I said, we yet have a lot of cultural.
But for that part of the energy exchange, I asked you to answer the questions because.
So I have a little different thought on this. I believe that the universe is benevolent, the universe is fruitful. A lot of therapists I come across feel that there has to be a fee for all the work that we do in the energy space. My personal belief is that it's your choice. If you wish to charge, you can. If you don't wish to charge, it's okay if you don't. As long as you are comfortable with it, I think that's what really matters. Because the way I look at my life is I take in oxygen and water and air from the universe. I take in sunlight. What's my energy exchange on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Aarti, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Which is why I do a lot of
Thank
my
you.
work for free. I do a lot. I mean, in fact, I do all my work for free because I believe that since I have received, I can give.
Yeah. And for me, that's more or less the same. The energy exchange is really important. So if I'm coming to India, it's really important for me to get the balance of give and take, make it a good balance. But for me, the whole goal of doing this and coming to India is to grow and to see you, to join new cultures and to learn about how organizational constellations can be fruitful in different cultures and in different countries. That's more important. So I do a lot of work for free, especially when I do constellations in workshops and groups, like I would love to do in India. And what I do for money is just having a business in the Netherlands with individual clients for coaching on a systemic level, etc. And my department for research and development is what I'm doing now. That's how I learn and grow.
Wow. Good. So do we have any more questions with anybody else? If not, any last questions? No, I think we're good.
Okay, then I want to say to you all, thank you very much for your interest. Thank you very much for your questions and for processing what Hitesh and me and the people who asked questions, what we came up with and what we told you. And if there will be some more questions for me, you're kindly invited for the next talk that we will have. And in between, I am really open to talk with you on preferably WhatsApp or Signal, or and also on mail. But on WhatsApp, you can reach me, and then put a WhatsApp to me personally. I'm part of some of the groups of Hitesh.
Yes.
I don't read and follow all his thing, so you're really welcome with your questions from now on. And Rishi is raising her hand. That's also a possibility of Zoom. Oh, Rishi, yeah.
Hi, Hitesh, if you remember the conversation I had with you regarding the company,
Right.
you were of the opinion that it would come under a family constellation.
Yeah, so
right?
I stand corrected.
Yeah,
So I'm also learning more and I stand corrected. I think you could, what I could do, Rishi, is if you want, I could actually introduce you to Claes over an email.
Okay.
And you could have a conversation with him on that particular topic.
Well, that would be very kind of you. I would love that because it's, I mean, I explained to the history, I got the impression after hearing Claes that, when I'm confused now.
even we all get more and more clarity. So Claes has thrown a lot of light on the work, more in-depth idea of the work. So just drop me a test email or Rishi, and I'll introduce you to Claes, and you guys can have a conversation about that.
An email? Should I send you an email, Hitesh?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you, Claes. You'll be hearing from me very shortly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I have to face Rishi. That's good.
Good. Thank you so much, Claes. It was wonderful seeing you, and thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year again, and happy what's the other celebration. And I would love to see and meet you online and especially offline later this year.
Sure. Thank you so much, Claes. Thank you.
Thank you, Hitesh. Thank you,
Guys,
everyone.
2 quick announcements before we all start leaving. 2 quick announcements. One is we are starting, I had spoken about doing organ regeneration work earlier, and I'm starting a group on that next week. It's a little delayed. I should have been doing it in November, but just life has been very, very hectic. So you can just drop me a message. You all know my WhatsApp number. We have a specific WhatsApp group where we're talking about organ regeneration. And if you've lost an organ or if you've been born without an organ, how do you work with that? So that's what we'll be doing starting next week. Fortunately, it's going to be early in the mornings, like always, but it will be recorded. So you could really go back and do it on your own later on. And the other thing is, I just quickly wanted to show you, a lot of you asked, Hans is coming in to India on the 3rd to 5th of April. It's the in-person workshop in Mumbai. I've put the link in the chat already. And like this, we also will be bringing class later in the course of the year. But the link is on over here. And we've already sold out, I think, 20 seats. Our capacity is 40. We're looking at closing all registrations by January end, because we want to spend February and March getting in the clients. Till you don't have the right clients, you really can't enjoy and understand the work. So that's where we want to spend most of our time, in February and March. So this is the workshop by Hans. There's another beautiful workshop happening by Tulin. We're doing, and for those of you who would like to travel and believe in shamanic retreats, Tulin is taking us to Nepal in the month of March, where we're doing a lovely shamanic retreat in Nepal with Tulin. I'll just show you the link, and I can send you all the details over there of that also. Yeah, so it's a beautiful workshop. We're nestled in the beautiful hills of Nepal, overlooking Mount Everest, and it's going to be another beautiful workshop where all the details are here on the link. I can send that to you guys if you want. So one, of course, was we're starting with organ regeneration work. Second was the update on Hans's workshop, update on Chulin's workshop. And from the week after next, we start our morning processes again. So those of you who've missed Ho'oponopono or the deep healing that we do, we'll start all of that. Of course, how could I forget? We have a deep healing conversation, a deep healing talk happening on Thursday with Ishani and Jutika, where we're really going to talk about what is deep healing and why is it really important to go back to the core, to go back to the origin and really embrace the elements of, healing yourself. Not just, of course, every modality has its place and we're not discounting any of that. But what deep healing brings is resolution from the core. And that's what we're talking about in that workshop. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Any questions? More than happy to answer. Anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Possible to see the Hans Wala workshop online?
Do you want to see it once again? Sure.
No, not that way. Like how Marian had organized this SOS on Zoom and in place.
No, unfortunately, Hans has said he won't want to do this online, because he said Hans has said that he wants to do this in person. If we were, in fact, we have a lot of people from different parts of the world who want to see it online. And initially he said that, yes, they could see it online, but they really can't participate in it.
Yeah, so even seeing would be good enough. He's not open to that either.
He says you have to be, he says, this is, this work you have to learn in person. So,
right.
and that is Hans.